Hey everybody, Dr. Amy here. Hey, one of the topics that is really getting asked a lot lately is just what do I do to support my child when they seem to be having a lot of behaviors I haven't seen in a while, anxiety, things that look like maybe bad behaviors. First of all, I want you to remember that this is a time of a lot of stress for a lot of kids. There's a lot of changing things. There's a lot of different routines. There's a lot of different demands being placed on our kids. But the big question that I want to help parents and practitioners kind of navigate through right now is, well, first, just understanding it makes sense that we're having some more stress and maybe having more stress and big behaviors or adaptation to stress, deflections in our life because of what's going on. Two, I want to start to introduce this concept of behaviors are a window into the brain. And we really, as parents, as teachers, as practitioners, we really need to ask ourselves, is this a bottom-up issue with behavior? Meaning we're having trouble with our more primitive, processing, like just basic emotional regulation, reaction, that type of feelings of safety, fight or flight, or being kind of stuck in that fight, flight, or freeze? Or is this a top-down, like a choice? Is this behavior, is this interaction a actual choice that we're using our big brain, our cortex, our prefrontal cortex even, to navigate, and that's what's guiding the behavior. So in order to know how to specifically help a child who's having bigger behaviors, anxiety, or these deflections, these challenges, we first need to understand what the behavior is telling us. Is it a bottom-up issue, meaning they're just really not using their logic and reasoning, they're more reactive? Those things tend to look like big emotional reactions or big aggression where it didn't seem like it was an appropriate response to the demand, right? Completely freezing or having a big emotional breakdown, what looks like a breakdown. That typically tells us, this might be more of a bottom-up issue, like we're having trouble neurologically just getting out of that fight or flight. That's where we want to make sure and do things that are really supportive to the nervous system, like go to your neuro-based chiropractor a little more frequently to help adapt during this time. Like make sure we're not having inflammatory foods. Like, make sure that we're doing our best to help our children have prediction and control right now to help them adapt, to be more engaged in their cortex. Things that are more top-down would be things that actually look like, hey, there's a behavior that seems to be more like a choice. Now, a lot of times in our more traditional thinking of behavior and learning challenges, everything kind of looks like a top-down issue, like this child is trying to manipulate trying to control or something like that. But I challenge you to really look at the behaviors and challenges that your child or you yourself are having and say to yourself, is this a typical response, or is this like a much bigger response for the scenario? One that doesn't make a lot of sense. That's a window to you that this might actually be a bottom-up issue, and we may be having trouble with our basic neuroception or our basic function or balance in our nervous system, and it's really not a choice. And so we want to refer back to doing some of those things that are going to help us stay more in a balanced state, neurologically speaking, that I mentioned earlier in the video. Really important topic, particularly right now, because we have more stress in our world that we're having to adapt to, and so that can cause us to be more in our brainstem, less in our cortex, and have more bottom-up issues or challenges as adults and as kids. And it's really important that we don't try to just correct these, but we need to understand them to get better results for our kids.